Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Thank you all for the recent subscribers. It is much appreciated and it encourages me to do more daily videos. We've got a lot of changes happening recently and coming up through the summer, so please do subscribe to stay in tune with all the latest updates. We can see today that they have got a lot of new steel work and rebar. I've zoomed into it here on the camera. Over this new concrete slab that they've poured. This is some cheap grade concrete, which is used as an intermediary layer instead of sort of putting the next layer that's going to go on top of it on dirt. They've used it as so they have level ground, where they'll use more expensive concrete, as seen on these concrete boxes up here, where they poured the concrete. We can also see they've finished the scaffolding on the left hand side of that big section towards the bottom left of the screen, so they'll be pouring that shortly, and they've started to backfill these towards the bottom of the screen here, these concrete boxes. So the next thing that will happen is the rebar will appear as seen over a lot of the site here on the left and right hand sides. They'll then pour them in and eventually they'll look like these in the middle, which have now been fully backfilled. Something interesting I noted today is on the left hand side, one from the left hand side on the right, that concrete pour has had the cast around it now for probably about over 2 weeks. I'm not sure if they messed up the concrete pour once or whatever, but we've also noticed they've now done the one behind it from this point of view, or to the left hand side near the railway line. So it's interesting to see that they've finished that in the time that this other one's been done. I zoomed in there on some red little fittings that look like rebar, but obviously they're a different colour to normal. They've almost finished this section by the back of the site here. The final concrete box that hasn't been poured has now got the cast around it. So tomorrow or the next day, presumably, they will start pouring the concrete in that. And then that whole section will be done. They'll then backfill it and the process will continue with the rebar columns. We can see more rebar happening over here on the left hand side. Again, those red pillars are on the left. If anybody knows what they are, please do let me know. It looks like rebar, but they are slightly different. I wonder if they're like connectors or anything like that. Look over towards the storage area. Nothing really new happening over there. I did see an excavator up there the other day. And as we fly over towards the rest of the site, and as we check out the tram line and the BBC headquarters, we don't see any Chiltern Line trains today. This is going to be an integral railway line that is going to link sort of Curzon Street, Moore Street, and also the Sports Quarter, which I will have coverage of in the future. I then cut the video there because I started my live stream. A few of you will have already seen that. I put that out today because this video is a little bit later than usual, just because I was somewhere else earlier in the day, and just so some people had something to watch a bit earlier. This is obviously the much more high quality recording version of it. We'll be back towards normal time tomorrow onwards. There's also some interesting stuff happening with Bellingham Bridge that we'll look at in a moment, or at least the supports. We can see a large hole here, obviously dug by an excavator. They're obviously working on the mains before the tram line gets to that stage. We can see more works on this side of the railway arch. As we fly over to where they're actually working with the tram line, they've now fully fitted out on both sides the cast to where they're going to pour concrete over it to make the tram line. A lot has happened obviously in just a very short time. Even 10 days ago, none of this was here. It was just blue lines on the ground. So they're looking to make big progress. I keep saying it, but I get so many new viewers, and thank you for tuning in. It looks as though the tram line is going to go into Curzon Street in September. That's when the work is permitted to start at the moment. That's when they're expecting it. And obviously it'll be great when that works, as we can get some different views of HS2. And also it'll connect the coach station better to the centre of Birmingham instead of having to walk. Looking over at motorhomes, I like to follow the progress of this. I might do another video over there. I know I'm HS2 oriented, but that's massive for the area. I think there's almost 2,000 one and two bed flats. So yeah, we took a brief look over at the BBC headquarters, as I often do. This has now been finished on the outside, and they've just started a 15-month process of the internal fit out. There's a lot of testing and things that have to happen before it can obviously be used day to day to create the shows and radio stations that people listen to. Thank you to the comments for pointing that out to me. So very shortly they'll be in there working away. Once again, they have said, the CEO of the BBC has said, the reason for them picking that exact location is primarily HS2 and its benefits of being able to get to London quickly. I think he's also hoping it gets built to Manchester, just for connectivity everywhere. But it just shows HS2 is attracting investment into the local area. As we look over to Curzon Street from the other side, to usual, we can see those piles that have been dug up that weren't there last week. They've started work on these ones on the bottom. A bit of the concrete base is showing through, and a lot of the rebar is now on the left-hand side. This is going to be a large area of new concrete once done, and I have a feeling it will form a structure like the two rows on the right-hand side that we haven't seen before. They've just started taking shape recently with the decking. I'll talk more about that in a moment. I did a close-up zoom of that today, and actually zoomed in, as there's quite a lot to see in this area. Again, looking over this concrete box, trying to get an idea of what is there on the ground, what might they be doing on here. No real telltale signs yet, just more of that reinforced, it's either steel or just reinforced rebar. It's definitely thicker than some of the rebar used on site. A lot of the machinery supplied by NPB, that's been seen since the start of the project. Please let me know if you like this zoom feature. I'm still trying to work it out, but I think it's pretty good for showing exactly how the processes are getting done. And just to give a closer look, this is the false work section. So just to explain to the new people, this section here is being built in a slightly different way to the decking on the left-hand side, as this is going to be an area where the platform is going to have higher loads, with sort of more weight basically on it than this section. This is built slightly differently. This isn't false work. This is just, it's got a decking section. The decking will actually be removed shortly. This is just basically gives the workers something to stand on, but the whole thing's going to be poured in concrete eventually around this rebar sort of lattice that they've made. As we move towards where they've got to, they've now done 11 of these concrete segments. These pours is how far the decking reaches. And it's good to see as well at the end, they've now actually poured the concrete for the final one in this row. I know they were waiting a while to do that. We can see also towards the bottom of the screen, there's these new thin rectangle ones that they're starting to pour the concrete for. Again, they're only doing half at once, the same as seen towards the top of the screen on the other side of this water retention box. And again, on this box, we can see very thick rebar sections on the right-hand side, and obviously they're moving towards the left. It's all got to be that thick, so they've got to put another couple of layers on this left-hand side. I'm guessing they'll then do the same where there's these weird spillages at the moment, sort of oily water, it looks like. They'll finish off down there eventually, and then that will be poured with concrete as well. More NPB diggers and excavators and cranes. We can also see the storage area has been moved over to the left-hand side. This is where the workers create their concrete casts that go around things like that water retention box. We saw in the last video that they are planning to go around the whole of the outside with a concrete cast and pour that all in, so they're going to need a lot of those sections. They've also finally finished all the concrete boxes down this section of the site. They have that blue mat that they've placed down. That blue mat is actually used so that the land doesn't move if it rains. So while they backfill it in, I'm guessing it's quite useful to have sort of the land fixed in place. That acts as like a membrane, and it just holds all the land in place. As we fly over the viaducts and the old offices, or I keep calling them old offices, they're still used, but obviously the new offices are being built down the other side, and we can use them as a basis for what the other ones are going to look like to see how close it is to them opening up. These scaffolding sections on this side of the canal are eventually going to look like these two on the other side of the canal. So they will be identical. I did also take a look at this section on the left hand side where we are pretty sure, me and a couple of people in the comments, that these are the parts of a tower crane. I did zoom in, and I even zoomed in further than this to try and read some names. It looks almost like DEAL or maybe DCAL. I think it's an E. It gets a bit grainy here. People asked me to zoom in if we could get any idea of the company that they're working with. But that is all I could get from that. And then it looks to be more cornered off, so it looks like they're getting ready to use this area. I know Curzon No.2 Viaduct is planning to be moved only 2 weeks from now, from the 24th to the 28th, and then from the possibly 29th to the 31st in 2 different sections. The first one will be over the railway line, and then the second part will be another push. See a lot more scaffolding all over the place, even on Lawley Middleway, but these viaduct supports here are getting a lot of work, and I'm going to cover these extensively over the next few weeks as the preparation for the Curzon No.2 Viaduct slide takes place. This is going to be the biggest bridge slide. It's got to be in UK history. It's absolutely massive. We can see the scaffolding on the first support. So this is the first viaduct support that obviously Curzon No.2 Viaduct or Bellingham Bridge is going to hit. So that is looking to be pretty good. I'm not sure if they're going to pour concrete all over this, so it's a bit more sturdy. If they had, they'd better do it soon, given that the push is on the 24th and it's all got to set. I know it doesn't take 2 weeks to do for it to set, but they'd better get thinking about it. If that is their intention. We can see workers, this was done quite late, around 7 PM. There's still people working on it. Obviously, they've got deadlines to meet and it's coming up pretty soon, but it's good to see people still here at this time. There's a lot going on over this section of the site. We can see Duddeston Junction Viaduct over in the backhand side, just before that blue area on the train track. that won't be being pushed again for another couple of months. As we fly back over towards Curzon Street area, we can see the whole of the site from the other side. In a moment, I'm going to fly over towards the new offices they're building and just get an update on that, as it's useful, because when it ramps up to peak production on this site, that'll be quite exciting. I think they're going to double the number of workers on site in these new offices, and obviously that'll be exciting as there'll be more to cover every day. We can see those concrete boxes on the bottom of the site here are now complete. Not too much done on the bottom of the site here, but it's crusty. It's like cracking in the dirt. It's so dry. Nothing done there yet. Looking at Curzon Street, there were plans to remediate this building and make it nice again. We can see some fences on the roof. I don't think we've ever seen that before. But I don't know if the money's run out for that at this stage. But we'll see. It'd be good if they could start using that again. See a lot of concrete cast things on the left-hand side. That's going to be interesting when they pour that. It's one of those thin rectangles that is going to get poured and have a load of concrete around it. We don't see a lot of those. Look back over this big decking section. In my head, I've got by the end of the week, they're going to be at least to the second to last one is going to be covered in decking. They seem to be doing about 2 a day. So that'll be interesting to watch. I know they've got to wait for the other one to set first. Flying over towards the old offices, just taking a look at it. They have to extend this sort of concrete pebble sort of floor area that we can see on the left hand side. They've got to obviously make it nice for people before the offices are being used, but all the rebar is now gone by the bottom of the stairs. They poured all that concrete and it's starting to look very nice, and I'm sure they can do that path in no time. So it's looking good. Thank you all again very much for watching. I'll be back again tomorrow for another update. A lot is happening every day, I'm sure you're aware. Please do like and subscribe. It means more than you think to me and to the channel. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.